Allah says in Surah Al-Nisa, Surah Al-Anfal, I won't quote the ayahs, for those of you that are taking notes, it's 475 and 872. Allah allows people to fight for their rights when their rights have been taken, which is a furthering of what I just said. If the rights to live, to have your property, if those kinds of rights are usurped, then Allah gives the people a right to fight back. Then this passage that we're going to study is actually a passage that is exhaustively about the ethics of fighting. What should you be aware of while you're fighting? I'll quote Professor Abdul Halim, because he wrote a paper on jihad in the Quran. I'll quote one piece of it. By the way, the full version of this is in my book, Divine Speech. There's a chapter dedicated on jihad. Okay? Anyway, this passage that we're about to study, ayah 190 to 194, contains many restrictions and are couched in restraining language that appeals strongly to the conscience. One time Allah says until, meaning don't fight until. We'll study that. 4 times He says if this, then you can fight. If this, then you can. You can't just fight, conditions have to be met. And the word if occurs 4 times. Twice, those who fight you. Meaning you can't just fight, it has to be, you can only fight those who fight you. And that occurs twice in these just 4 ayat. And on top of that, other cautionary measures like in Allah's way. Be mindful of Allah. Allah doesn't love those who cross limits. Allah is with those who are mindful of Him, who do good. Allah is forgiving. Allah is merciful. If they stop, you should stop. Over and over. So even when He talks about fighting, He doesn't say just kill everyone. He says, wait, you have to be conscious of Allah. Only fight those who aggress against you. Don't cross the limits. Don't go overboard. They killed one of yours, you're going to drop a bomb and kill 1,000 of theirs? No, you're not going to do that. You cannot do that. You cannot go overboard in the killing. So the ethics are very restrictive. Then, wherever you counter them, one ayah, one piece of this, evangelicals love it. وَاقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ ثَقِفْتُمُوهُمْ. Kill them wherever you find them. Their Quran says they're going to find us wherever we are. If Muslims were truly Muslim, they'd be killing us right now. That's what you hear. You know what that means? Kill them wherever you find them. Or this ayah, I'll go into it in detail when the time comes, but for now, it actually says that if they fight against you and you're even at the Kaaba, you can still fight back against them. The wherever was in the context of you may even fight them at the Kaaba. That was the original meaning. Because the Muslims said, how can we fight in the sacred land? But Allah says what they're doing is worse. The Kaaba must be liberated. So if they fight you at the Kaaba, be ready to fight there too. I'm giving you license. It's my Kaaba, I give you license. So wherever you find them. It's not kill them wherever you find them in Texas. It's not like that. It's not I've been working on it. Okay, so in Surah An-Nisa, ayah 90 and onwards, and many other ayat, you're bound by peace agreements. And only fight when attacked. And you're not allowed to break the peace agreement. And if they incline towards peace, you should say, no, there shall be war until you're subdued. No, you incline towards peace too. That's in Surah Al-Anfal. And even justified war should never be disproportionate. The conquest of Makkah, by the way, when do you have, the Muslims want to invade. When did the Prophet ﷺ invade Makkah? He invaded Makkah when the Treaty of Hudaybiyah was violated. Think about that. The Prophet ﷺ never actually invaded Makkah outside of the context of what? A peace treaty being violated. It was actually never a war directly against Makkah. It never happened. The harshest ayat, and this is something that I'll have to refer you guys to go back, those of you that are interested in the subject, because tomorrow may be a longer day to talk about this. I'll give you the brief version now. So what happens is, there's something called the surah, the ayah of the sword. It's famously known as the ayatul sayf, the ayah of the sword. It's in Surah At-Tawbah. Surah At-Tawbah is the 9th surah of the Quran. And it is one of the last surahs to be revealed. Okay? So some people believe because that ayah says that you must continue to fight, the last thing Allah said must be the most applicable. And their view was that because it's the last thing that was said, it cancels out everything that was before. So the universal policy of Islam from now on will be, we must continue to what? Fight. And we're going to fight until there's shirk in the world. And so long as there's shirk, we're going to keep on fighting. Because jihad will remain forever and ever and ever. And the basis of that is that these ayat came in what surah? Surah At-Tawbah. So for anybody who has like a jihadi mindset, the jihadi mindset means Jihad must go on all over the world, wherever the Muslims can do it, until all shirk has been destroyed. Their mindset, the root of it, the fundamental basis of it is the interpretation of the ayat of Surah At-Tawbah. That's where it comes from. We're currently studying Surah Al-Baqarah. But I will tell you, from what I've come to understand, and I'm not trying to say this out of fear, and I'm not trying to say this out of anger. I believe that is one of the grossest misinterpretations of the Quran in Islamic history. And a lot of scholars did believe it. I'm not gonna, I can't, academically, I have to be honest, with all due respect to their position, I am so deeply convinced of my position, and I see that actually as a gross, gross error in our history. That the perpetual nature of jihad, and that it must continue to go on. I don't see that as the case. And I don't mean to say that they're misguided or wrong or whatever, and some people, obviously, jihad is a touchy subject for a lot of people, and when you talk about it like that, they're like, how dare you say this? It's like, astaghfirullah, what about this scholar and this scholar and this scholar? I'm not interested in names. I'm interested in the argument itself. So I'll summarize the argument in 5 minutes for you, for why I don't believe that Surah At-Tawbah can be used that way. Any prophet that ever came, can you name some prophets that are talked about in the Quran? Okay, Musa. Who else? Nuh. Okay, so let's take Musa and Nuh. Common prophets mentioned, yeah? For virtually every messenger that came, they came to a nation, they tried to preach to that nation. That nation, majority of them believed or disbelieved? They disbelieved. And when they disbelieved, what did Allah do with that nation? He destroyed them. Okay, that's Allah's sunnah. Sunnah means Allah's legacy, the way Allah does things. Allah says about His legacy, وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا. You will not find a change in the way Allah does things. So the way Allah deals with one nation will be the same parameter of justice, the same standard of justice. He will deal with another and another and another and another. Study Surah Al-Shu'ara. You'll find nation after nation, prophet after prophet, destruction after destruction, same tragedy repeating itself. Okay, now, second thing. When destruction comes, when the flood came for Noah, when the water came crashing down on who? On Fir'aun, because the body was opened up, and then when it came crashing down on him. When it's about to completely crush him, does the water stop? And then Allah says, hey, so I know you haven't been taking me seriously so far, but you're interested now? Now that you know what's up? Does Allah ever do that? No. Once the punishment begins, it's the death penalty. That's it. So there are two destructions of a nation. There's a destruction in this world, and then there's a punishment in the afterlife for anybody who became an enemy to prophets while they were alive. They have to face consequences in this world and in the next world. Is that clear that that has been the way Allah does things all along?